when their hearts were in the right place, and Jesus is going to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm not going to, I think the next pastor would probably be really upset if I said, you don't have to tithe. You give according to what God speaks to you in your heart to give. So I need to make sure that disclaimer is on there, and the elders will, they may fire me before we ever get to that point. The system was set up because in 600 BC, there were no synagogues. There was just the temple, the tabernacle in Jerusalem. So in order to give your tithe as a faithful Jew, you had to travel physically to Jerusalem and give it there. And there were 13 chests, ancient writers say, in the compound of the tabernacle. And you would go in and you would drop your tithe in that chest, in those chests. This is in Luke 21, the parable of the widow's mites. That's what Jesus saw. He saw the rich putting their money in with great fanfare, and he saw that widow give those 2 coins. Look that up in Luke 21. But the treasury that he's talking about are those chests around. So you had to go to Jerusalem in order to give your tithe to the church. And then, Babylonian captivity, the Jews couldn't get to Jerusalem. So they established then synagogues. Synagogue simply means assembly, gather. And they started to bring their tithes to these little local houses of worship. Well, guess what? Then Zerubbabel lets them go back. He rebuilds the temple, Ezra, Nehemiah, all of that. You know your Bible history. If you don't, come see me. I'll give you the stories. They're great. And the synagogue, the temple is rebuilt. But the synagogues are still in place. So now there's competition. And competition, breeds innovation. And then the Pharisees step in and say, we want a bigger piece of the pie. And so they started to do these outlandish things. And now nothing prevented a Jew, even during, under the old law, from giving individually to a neighbor who is in need. The law actually demanded that. But institutional giving, I should make that distinction. Institutional giving had to go to the temple, to the tabernacle. And that was the system. So in the case of giving to the poor, Jesus says that the proper attitude in the next verse is to give so that your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing. Verse 3. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And that's a wonderful turn of phrase. I think I like that. And it's creeped into our culture as well. We still use that. It just denotes complete anonymity. We do not want someone to know. Then we say the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. It simply means that we shouldn't seek public attention for our giving in any way. Shouldn't talk about it. Shouldn't seek recognition. If someone does try to give you recognition, you should refuse it. You didn't do that for that purpose. And the modern church has found its own way to kind of work around the Pharisees' hypocrisy. Have you ever seen plaques hanging on buildings? And I just attended the ribbon cutting of the Salvation Army Center of Hope, which I was at the beginning of that project years ago. And you walk into the center, and there's this 6-foot brass or bronze, I don't know, big plaque with everyone's name on it. Mine wasn't on there, by the way. I escaped that one. And even on the name outside, they named it after a donor couple. Well, we'll see what Jesus says in the next couple of verses about that. And churches do that. I mean, the church I grew up in had, do you remember this, some of you, that there were names on the back of the pews that people had purchased? I think if I asked for my name for the donations at the Center of Hope, I might get a urinal in the men's bathroom. I don't know. I was a poor pastor. Maybe I should ask them to put my name. No, I don't. Those are humble brags. But what Jesus is saying is the best way to keep your motives pure in regards to this is to just give anonymously. It's like when you use the Easy Tithe app, you hit give, donate, and then you forget it. Or you drop it in the box and you forget it. You walk away and forget it. I used to be one of those people that said, no, you need to physically write your check out and walk up to the front or put it in the offering plate because it's a sacrifice. And it needs to be an intentional sacrifice. It's too easy to do the reoccurring payments. But then I read Matthew 6, what Jesus is saying. And I want to be anonymous. I want to forget that I want to have that motivation to be so ingrained that I don't have to think about it. Become a person who gives out of nature. A charitable nature, a generous nature, like breathing. I don't have to focus on breathing. It just happens until someone brings your attention to it. Okay, I'll probably play golf with some of you, but I golf with a threesome, 4 of us at the church, and when one of our gentlemen got up to the tee box, and he's a big guy, he hits, a country mile, most of the time it's straight, but I said, can I ask you a question? Do you inhale or exhale on your downswing? He's a great driver, but he couldn't hit a ball for the rest of that round because he was thinking. He didn't know what he was doing. There are things that we do that are just natural. You ever watch Dane? That's second nature. Why? Because he's done it so much. Or Jake moving his fingers so fast. I try to watch guitar players because I pretend that I'm one. And I have no idea what he's doing. I think it's witchcraft. He's done it so much that it's second nature. That's what Jesus is saying our giving should be like. We should live generously and give as if it's our second nature. Become a person of generosity. So you don't even realize it. It just flows from you. And verse 4, so that your giving may be in secret, then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. He doesn't say, give and don't ask for a reward, does he? That's a great thought, but it's not Jesus' thought. As a matter of fact, each point along this way, he's going to talk about the rewards and where we're investing. He knows there's a reward. He promises that there's a reward, but not the reward of people seeing you do those things. It's of God watching you and knowing what you are doing and why you are doing it. As I was thinking about this, I thought of when my kids were little. And I know that some of you fathers out there experience this too. When your children are little and they're learning to do something, ride a bike, catch a ball. With my son, it was cannonballs. He'd always say, Daddy, watch me. And he'd do a cannonball, because you can't do a cannonball if no one's watching. You know that, right? It's impossible. Well, my kids, whenever I did that, they didn't ask for, financial compensation for the cannonball, until they got older, What was the reward? The reward was the attention of their daddy. Jesus is saying that when we do things in that manner, without seeking the attention and the reward of man, then we get the reward, the eternal reward of our Father in heaven. For those of you who are financially minded, the return on investment, I think I'm going to choose that one. Because this is going to go away after a while. But the rewards that our Father gives us are eternal. They last forever. I also wanted to tell you, can I share my heart here? We talk about motivations. I just kind of want to tell you what my motivation is. What started with my wife and I, if I say 30 years, how many people in this room are under 30? It'll just make me feel old. 30 years ago, hush. when the Lord called us to the ministry, our goal as leaders in the church was simply to make sure that those people that God placed in front of us, that they would enter into the kingdom of through their faith in Jesus Christ. That was it. We wanted to, in the words of one of my pastor friends here in Corpus Christi, we wanted to take as many people to heaven with us as we could. The Hebrews writer, chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, let us fear, if while a promise remains of entering his rest, any one of you may seem to come short of it. That is a fear. It should be a fear of the church. That's why we get together and we grow close and strong and we focus on the reward that God has for us. But equally important, when Sharon and I got into the ministry and started to work through it, was we wanted to maximize the rewards of the believer. We didn't want you to get credit down here. We want you to get credit up there where it matters forever. We don't want you or anyone to arrive in the kingdom on that future day having forfeited the eternal reward because I didn't prepare you for that moment. And preparing you means helping you gain eyesight for eternity. To look towards eternity and not today. So first, teaching you Christ's commands and his words so that you don't fall or fail. You understand his expectations. You don't fall or fail from ignorance. And then, secondly, encouraging you to obey his commands so that you won't fall from disobedience. Again, Hebrews 12, 13, 14 says this, and this is where all of us as believers, our responsibility comes in. Therefore, strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble. And make straight paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. And listen to this, pursue peace with all people, and the sanctification without which no one will see the Lord. What's our responsibility as members of a faith family, as believers? Is to do exactly that, to strengthen the hands that are weak next to us across the sanctuary, in our life groups, in our families, in our church, the knees that are feeble, to hold one another up in these days. So as the deacons, or the elders, another church reference from the past, as they come forward, and the leaders, to pray with you all, if there are concerns that you have, maybe it's your motivations and intentions, you want to do what God has called you to do, then you come forward and pray with these men and women as they come forward to pray with you. And during this time of prayer, as we worship and close out, know that God promises rewards, and he wants to give rewards to his children. So say, Daddy, watch me. Give and do and serve for your Heavenly Father, and that eternal reward that men don't need to see. God bless you all.
Spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. For I took a breath, and you breathed your life in me. You have been been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I was your foe, still your love found me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't knock down, a why you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah.
Y'all can be seated for a moment.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to highlight a few of announcements. There's quite a few in your bulletin here, but just a couple things. So the Women's Retreat is coming up this weekend, April 30th through May 2nd. If you are a woman and you are interested in going out to camp for a few days, you can talk to Elizabeth about that or Kelsey, and sign up for that is today. The deadline to sign up for that is today. And then, as Terry mentioned, on Saturday, May 1st, we're going to have a work day up at the church, 8:30 a.m. So if you are a woman and not going to the women's retreat, I guess you can come help out with that too. But also, if you're a man and want to help out, anybody can help out. So come up to the church. We had some indoor projects, outdoor projects that you could be a part of. And then the Brennan Farewell Lunch, as you guys know, that has been moved to May 16th. And so after service on that day, we will eat lunch together as a family. I know Matt's excited about coming back and preaching over the next few weeks and ending out his time here. So we look forward to that. Yeah, you guys are dismissed. Thank you for joining us today. I'm glad you're here.
thing on it, so I had to do this.
Well, I have to print it out.
It's so hard. Well, because I used to print out the music, and I had a music stand, and then apparently they don't love us using like big music stands like
Yeah,
that.
and I normally don't either, but some of these songs weren't as familiar to me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally splat, you know.
No, for sure. Well, I mean, I'm not good enough. I have to have music. Like, I have to have something to look at. I'll get lost. And it's mostly because I get like